Well, welcome back again, my friends and followers, it seems like these days, to another episode of Automotive Drama. I'm back to the Volvo Berton over here, which I'm finishing the restore on. And what I'm finding out, this car's actually should be in Jay Leno's garage by the time I get done with the paint job on it. That's why, alright. Let's get down to the basics. Like always, we'll keep it short. Likes are nice, scribes are better. Questions, comments, feel free. That little thumb is real easy to use for the scribe button, etc., etc. Alright, here we go. Excuse me. Alright, you see all this little green? This is called etching primer. Etching primer, etching primer, etching primer. Where the guy that did the body work before me actually did the fender right. At least I hope, as far as I can tell. Now, I was saying he did a lot of, he did a lot of extra body work, but I thought he did it right, but he didn't. And let me show you what I'm talking about. Do you see these, lines right here? Now, if you saw a previous video, this was all filled with 2K primer, and as you can see, I've already knocked it back down. Actually, 220'd it back down, because when I started getting deeper and deeper into this guy's body work, and a good body man of mine that I know, and a 30-year painter, mentioned these lines, and I'm like, yeah, well, I gotta touch it up with primer, but they're already cut through. Now, I did etch everything that this guy did. He didn't etch it before. Okay, fine. I'm going to have to etch this before I put primer. I'm going to have to reprimer, some of this. But I have to etch it. Let's get back to the point. A lot of these lines, and I'm really glad that I brought all this back down, because I don't even know why he put all this primer on this car. There might be a spot over here. I mean, this car needed a 320 wet and a little bit of body work, and then another 320 wet, and maybe a little primer here and there. It's really close to what should have been a scuff and shoot. Okay, not quite because of the paint job I'm going to put on it, but I mean, the car's in really nice shape. Like right here, you see this line? And this is even after I etched it. I went through the primer, and I don't know if you can see those lines. There's a couple there. They're real tiny. What they're called is 80 grit lines, like this. Like these. You see those? Now, when the guy did the previous work, when he did the work, if you're looking at those lines, I'm sorry, I'm trying to look at the lines and find them and put the camera in there. There's no primer on them, and they're through the paint almost into the original primer. And this is original. This is original, that's original, and this is what this guy added. I'm pretty sure that's all it, but yet he primered all of this. Same thing on the bottom. Now, I think I pretty much like these lines right here. He prepped them right. They won't focus. Here's some right there. Maybe those will focus. Now, he prepped those right. Now, they're full of primer. So I've already made them smooth. This is actually a high spot, so I have to work on that some more. But here's a kind of a low spot. But the point is, he didn't prep these right. Now, if you're just going to do a regular Mako, scuff and shoot, you get away with it for a year or so. Whatever. But then, there's going to be imperfections in your paint job. Like if you saw the previous video about this deck lid, it used to be white. Now there's, I try to do the same thing. Throw a little scuff and shoot Mako paint job on it, touch up the dings and dents. And then when I started getting into it, sorry, with the camera thingy, I'm not like one of these big guys, and I got all these studio and all these people I got to deal with to do this, because I'd never get anything done. But here's where I'm at now. Now I'm still gonna 2K primer this thing and knock it down. But there's lines like this. I know you can see those. I didn't even do that. I don't even know where that came from. I never touched this thing with 80 grit. Those are 80 lines. There's a couple other spots around here. Did I not? Or like this. Here. These. I know you can see those. They are through the paint. His previous body work, because I've never touched this with 80. They're 80 lines. Now, they're not prepped right. They're dusted with primer. I need to knock these back down with 220, and then I already know I gotta resand this whole thing again. But all this extra primer, like over here, wait till I get... For this part, actually, I'm not gonna lie, there's a little bit of tiny body work that was done right here. He squared out this when he primed it. I think the first video might have showed that. I don't know why he just didn't feather it in, and I don't know. And he did kind of a good job, but the more I got into it, I'm seeing like these little lines and this and that here and there. So that's telling me he wanted to do a quick scuff and shoot, and it would not be as flat as I'm pretty much making it. This panel, alright, here he did a pretty decent job. He didn't throw so much primer on it, and he prepped all the lines when I started getting into it around here. If there's any of those like little tiny lines I was talking about, this etching primer I threw on the edge, they'll blend in and they'll go away. When I etched these, there was a couple here and there, but like down here, I threw etching primer on them. And they didn't go away. So that means he did not prep that right. Mako paint job, there'll be little tiny lines that you'll see in the paint job. I'm not going to lie to you, most people wouldn't even know how to look for it. But, you know, this car's actually really rare and antique, and they only made 1,300 of them, and it's like probably one of a couple hundred left on the planet, and none of them look like this. So I'm putting like a $10,000 paint job on this car. Now, the body work doesn't really need much. Somebody else did most of the, like this, which I have to redo because I just don't like how he did it. This is okay, but I already broke through again after I etched all of this, like right here, and see how the etching primer, that stuff is so fabulous. Like right here, I'm going to throw etching primer on that, and then I'm just going to scuff it with like 400, and then I'm going to re-primer over this because I did break through, and I have to throw some good primer on it. And I don't even have to throw 2K on it because it's so flat. I just got to throw some primer on it and 400 it, and then that's paintable. This still needs a little bit of work, but if you look over here on this edge, there's a couple little tiny scratch lines in here that I have to knock out. The etching primer didn't take it out. That is still a spot because I haven't even worked on these yet. I'm still getting to those because those all have to be wet sanded and rubbed, and you got to give those a lot of love. But I'm not even sure what part of this car I'm on this chapter of this episode's here. Like maybe that'll show in the light. There you go. That is through the paint, and there was already primer here, and I knocked it down. And it's still, if I take my fingernail, hear that difference? Like from here to here? Sounds nice and smooth. I don't know if you can hear that or not. There's a couple down here that I have to get to. But did you hear the difference? Sounds like a file. Fingernail works good. But little tiny imperfections like that on the paint job that I'm going to put on this car just devalues the whole paint job. Somebody that really knows would maybe, and the way I'm going to fade it and flip it, you'd never look for it, the average person, but somebody that wants to buy this car is going to look at it, especially when I tell them there's like almost a $10,000 paint job on this car, is, going to look for things like that or have somebody come look for it. But anyways, thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Volvo Restoration Paint Job finishing. And, oh, I forgot to add, I own this car. Yeah. You don't want to believe what I paid for it, but what I paid for it, it was absolutely in the shape that it's in, and all the parts everywhere, and the motor's been redone, and this and that, and the receipts and everything, brand new windshield. I just couldn't resist. So, did I want this project? No, but the value of, I've already got 20 hours in breaking this thing down to be where I should be on this car. If I would have did it, but whatever. At least I'm doing it right, and like I said again, the paint job I'm going to put on this car, I don't want no sinkage, I don't want no fisheye, I don't want no orange peel, I don't want no waves, no nothing. It's going to be flat and beautiful. But thanks again for tuning in to this episode of the Volvo Berton, and have a good night, my friends.